Hi guys. So today I decided that I'm going to do a story time for you guys. One that I had mentioned in one of my earlier vlogs I thought about doing, and that is the story of when Alexis had meningitis when she was 5 days old. So I had Alexis on August 25th, 2010. And she was absolutely beautiful, of course, and perfectly healthy. She was 8 pounds, 3 ounces. It was an all-natural birth. It didn't seem to be any issues. And we went home after, I think it was 3 or 4 days. And everything was fine. Very excited to get her home, get situated. I had a case of the baby blues, pretty bad from what I remember. I mean, every day I was crying. I thought that I had ruined Paul's life because I brought this baby into it, which was not the case. But anyway, that's how I was feeling. So, anyway, that was besides the point. I don't even know why I mentioned that. But I was taking Alexis everywhere with me. We would go and visit friends and family and just enjoying having this new baby at home. And then one day, and she was 5 days old, we were having a pretty good heat wave going on. It had been very hot for a few days. And on this particular day, Alexis was sleeping more than usual. And I was at my mother's house, and she was in her little car seat sleeping away, and I had said to my mother, like, she's sleeping too much. It's not normal for her to sleep this much. And Mom said, well, you know, that's what babies do. They sleep, and she's fine. She just needs to sleep. She's growing. So I said, okay, fine. So was it then at Mom's, I think I noticed that she had a rash, and it was on her legs. And I said to Mom, again, pointed out to my mother, and she said it's probably just a heat rash. I said it's very hot, so you know, just keep her a little onesie or get home, just leave her in her diaper, whatever, let her get cool. So I went home. My husband was working, and when I got home, I noticed that the rash was worse and was now on her belly. So I called up, I think I called my husband first, and I said, you know, she's got this rash, and he said, you know, I'm sure she's fine. Same thing, it's a heat rash. And then I called my mother, and as I'm talking to people, and of course I'm crying because now I'm worried that my baby's got a rash, and Mom said she's fine. And I said, but I can see it moving. Like I was watching the rash actually move up her whole body. And then when it hit her face, I said, that's it. I said, I'm going to the hospital. So my mom met me at the hospital. I said, Paul was at work and he couldn't get away from work. Emma! I don't know what she's destroying up there. So anyway, behave yourself. So I told Paul that I was taking the baby to the hospital, and that he just thought that I was, you know, being overprotective new mom. And he was like, that's what will make you feel better, than take her to the hospital and get her checked out. So we got her to the hospital, and the doctor checked her out, and right away he said, we're going to, because at that point I was living in a small town, so it's just a little hospital. And he said, I'm going to send you to Amherst. And I said, well, then I broke down. And he goes, why are you crying? And I said, because I'm scared. I don't know what's wrong with my baby. Now you're sending me somewhere else, to a bigger hospital. And he said, we just want to get her checked out. You know, you always listen to your instincts as a mother. That's why you have them. And you always listen to them. So he said, we're just going to go and get checked out. So Mom and I go and drive to Amherst, and we get there, and now at this point Alexis is having explosive diarrhea. And I have now got a migraine, because if I get stressed out, I get migraines. So they get her in, and they said, well, this could be from a few things. And could be she's allergic to her... Hey, go! She could be allergic to her laundry detergent. She could be allergic to maybe her diapers that she's wearing. So we tried a few different things. And then they said, well, we're going to keep you overnight and just to watch her. So we stayed in that. But they had to, for some reason, I can't remember why, but they had to admit me. They couldn't admit her. Or no, I couldn't stay. Maybe that was why. So they admitted me because of my migraines. Anyway, we were going to stay in the hospital overnight for observation. And meanwhile, the Amherst Hospital had called Moncton, which is the next bigger hospital down, which is about a half-hour drive away. So they called them just to see what they thought about this little newborn that had this rash. So in the middle of the night, this dog's gonna drive me crazy. Leave it. So in the middle of the night, the nurses came in and they said, we're gonna send you to Moncton. So they said, would you like to go by ambulance, or would you like to just drive yourselves? And we said, well, we can drive, like that's not a problem. So we bundled up Alexis and we got in the car and we drove to Moncton. And we went to where you normally go when you get to the hospital. They didn't tell us any specific spots to go to. So we were waiting. And we were there waiting for about an hour. And a doctor came over and they said, they've been waiting for you guys in emergency. Like, they've been looking for this poor little newborn baby that was supposed to have been rushed in by ambulance and couldn't find her. And when we got in there, we said, no, they told us to drive. Or they said we could do either or. So we drove, and she said, no, I wanted her rushed here by ambulance. And so that was the first complaint we had with the other hospital, which would be a whole nother video. I don't have enough time in this video to go into that. So anyway, so she got her in there, and right away this doctor knew that there was something not right, that it wasn't just a rash. So immediately she had to start an IV on my poor little 5-day-old baby. And it was absolutely horrifying to watch as they tried to put an IV in my poor little baby's arm, and she was screaming blue bloody murder. Of course they couldn't get it in, so then they had to resort to putting it into the side of her head here. So they had to shave her head. She had beautiful thick black hair. They had to shave the side of her head on both sides because they couldn't get one in, where they eventually got the IV in so that they could start pushing fluids in. At this point, they still don't know what is going on with her, and they put us in to a room in quarantine. And now at this point, Alexa's rash has turned into leopard spots. She actually looked like she had the spots of a leopard. I've never seen anything like it. I now wish I had taken a picture of her, but at the time it was so stressful that I didn't want to remember it. So as we're in there, it was just test after test after test. The IVs would fall out and they'd have to put them in, and it was just another torturous, listening to her scream. And then they had to take her in for a, it's called spinal tap. And I said, I can't do it. I can't go in and watch them poke her anymore. Even when they were putting in the IVs, I had to walk out because my migraines were just getting worse and worse. I became anemic. during this because I was so stressed out. The doctor set me out. She said, you need to go. She said, you need to go to the cafeteria, step away, get something into your system because you need to take care of yourself. So I did that. I couldn't stay away for very long. Obviously, I just wanted to stay with the baby. So at one point when I got back, and I was breastfeeding at the time, and so I was feeding her, and I felt something dripping on me, and I thought at first it must have been milk, and then I thought, this child doesn't let food get away from her. So I looked down, her IV had come out, and it was actually blood that was dripping on me. So we had to get the doctors to come back in, get another IV in, and get her suited back up. And so yeah, so the whole ordeal, and that's when we found out that she had bacterial meningitis. And they said it would have been a lot worse if I hadn't brought her in when I did, because it progressed so drastically and so fast. We actually only had to stay in the hospital, I think it was about a week. Her and I were in there together, and then they released her, and it was just the most stressful time I've ever had, to the point where I was like, I would never want to go through this again, like to take a chance of having another child that was sick, you know. And even though her sickness, although it was very serious, we were lucky that it wasn't even more serious than it was. So I can't imagine how a parent with an extremely sick child must feel. But anyway, they sent us home, and at this point we had no idea where she had contracted the meningitis from. Like I said, I had her out lots, out visiting everybody, and so I said, that's it. Like, I was super paranoid. I said, if anybody comes to my house, which I said nobody's going to come over for, a little bit. But if somebody does show up, be prepared. You're going to be doused in antibacterial, hand wash, and anything before you ever come near her. But then she was absolutely fine after that. She's extremely healthy. You see her now. She's absolutely wonderful. She had no effects from it. So we got very blessed. And so that was when she had meningitis, when she was 5 days old. Very stressful time in our lives. And I'm going to do a part 2 to this to explain, I think, a little bit more of my hospital birth story and how what I think happened and how she contracted the meningitis. So I'm going to end this video now and do part 2 for you.